My girlfriend, Isabella Hayes, the kind of woman with flawless skin, a model's body, and legs that go on for days, was in the shower. I casually picked up her phone, planning to scroll through the news. But the moment I unlocked it, I saw the message. A plan for my girlfriend and her childhood friend to go to the courthouse to get married. Her name is Isabella Hayes. Her childhood sweetheart is Caleb Vance. Caleb's message was blunt. Izzy, when are we making this official and signing the papers? And Isabella's reply felt like a plunge into ice water. Work is crazy the next couple of days. I'm free in 3. In my worst nightmares, I never imagined that a simple text thread could feel like a knife twisting in my gut. I stared at the screen, the blood freezing in my veins. My girlfriend, the Isabella the first loved, was planning to marry another man. We'd been together for 2 years. From colleagues working side by side in the office to whispering lovers tangled in bed sheets, we were inseparable. I thought what we had was rock solid. Now it all felt like a sick joke. The sound of the shower cut off. I clutched the phone, my knuckles white, and waited. A moment later, she walked out wrapped in a towel, water dripping from the ends of her hair. When she saw her phone in my hand, her face changed instantly. Ethan, what are you doing going through my phone? I forced down a rage bubbling in my chest. My voice was cold. Isabella, you need to explain this to me right now. You're getting married. Isabella's brow furrowed in annoyance. Are you insane, Ethan? You snoop through my phone and then act like you're the victim. It was a joke between Caleb and me. Why are you taking it so seriously? I was shaking with anger. A joke? You think getting married is something to joke about? Do you take me for a complete idiot, Isabella? Can you stop being so dramatic? Her voice rose. It's just for show with Caleb. It's a family arrangement, a strategic alliance. You know how these wealthy families operate. You're the one I love. That will never change. I let out a bitter laugh for show. A family arrangement. Do you really expect me to believe that crap, Isabella? Believe what you want. She spun around, stormed into the bedroom, and slammed the door behind her. I sat alone on the couch, my mind a chaotic mess. I didn't want to believe she was lying, but the texts were right there in black and white. After a long moment, one person came to mind. Isabella's father, Harrison Hayes. With trembling hands, I took out my own phone and dialed his number. It rang a few times before he picked up. Hey, Dad. Isabella would never guess that I called her father. Dad, I tried to keep my voice steady. Ethan, my boy, what's up? To what do I owe the pleasure? His voice was as warm as ever. I took a deep breath and got straight to the point. Dad, did you arrange for Isabella to marry Caleb Vance? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Harrison said, what is this? The 19th century. No one does arranged marriages anymore. Ethan, why are you suddenly asking about this? His words hit me like a physical blow. And the last shred of hope I was clinging to vanished. The so-called family arrangement was a complete lie. She wanted to marry Caleb. I forced myself to make a few minutes of small talk with Harrison before hanging up. My heart a lead weight in my chest. I sat in the dark replaying the last 2 years with Isabella in my mind. I had given her everything, poured every ounce of my love into our relationship. At the office, I solved her toughest problems and worked alongside her late into the night. At home, I took care of her, anticipating her every need. And what did I get in return? She was planning her wedding to another man behind my back. And then I thought about who we really were. Isabella, Caleb, and me. I am Harrison Hayes' biological son. I just took my mother's last name. It's a secret very few people know. Isabella is just a girl he adopted from an orphanage. And Caleb, he's the illegitimate son of some mid-level player born from an affair. Honestly, he and Isabella were a perfect match. But I'm not the type to wallow in heartbreak. I wouldn't let myself drown in misery. If Isabella chose to betray me, I wouldn't let them get away with it. A plan began to form in my mind, a way to make those 2 cheating scumbags pay for what they had done. The next day, I went to work as usual. At the office, I saw Isabella looking like her normal self. Perfect makeup, chic business attire, as if nothing had happened. She saw me and smiled, greeting me just like any other day. Morning, Ethan. Looking at her hypocritical face made me sick to my stomach, but I managed a tight smile. Morning. What I didn't expect was for her to bring Caleb, a guy who barely finished high school, into the company and gave him an important position. I couldn't believe it. Later, during a break, Isabella came over to my desk, pulled up a chair, and said sweetly, Ethan, don't be mad anymore, okay? I was out of line yesterday, and I'm sorry. I really am just doing this to appease my family. You're the one I love most. I looked at her laughing coldly on the inside, but my words were soft. Isabella, I believe you. It's just the whole thing really hurt me. Seeing my softened attitude, a triumphant smile spread across her face. I knew you'd understand. You're the best. Once this is all over, we'll take a nice long vacation. Just the two of us. I nodded. Okay. So, she started, fumbling with the document she pulled out. This is a proposal Caleb put together. I'm worried it's not quite right. Could you polish it up for him? Unbelievable. First, I was fixing her mistakes. Now, she wanted me to fix his, too. Did she think I was a doormat? I can't. I'm swamped today. My tone was flat. I gestured toward the door. I'm not the only analyst here. Ask someone else. You won't even help with this one little thing. She muttered as she walked away. Watching her leave, a glint of steel hardened my eyes. She thought she could just slot her boy toy into the company. I wasn't about to let that happen. 1. The misguided heir. The only reason Harrison Hayes ever gave Isabella the time of day was because of me. On the surface, it looked like Isabella was being groomed to take over the multi-billion-dollar Hayes Corporation, gradually handling more core business. In reality, behind every key decision, every strategic move, I was the one pulling the strings. I knew that this corporate empire, my father's life's work, would eventually be mine. That's why after graduating from the Wharton School of Business, I came back and deliberately concealed my identity, joining Hayes Corp under the title of Senior Management Trainee. All those late nights spent building presentations with Isabella, all those moments she stood proudly before the board. I was in the background plugging the holes in her logic, mitigating the risks she never saw coming. I thought we were partners, fighting in the trenches together. I never expected that just as we were nearing the finish line, she would be the one to shove me off a cliff. She played me with that arranged marriage nonsense, stabbing me in the back. When she used the family arrangement as her shield, she had no idea that the controlling shares of all 23 subsidiaries under Hayes Corp had been quietly transferred to my mother's name 3 years ago. My mother, who couldn't care less about the business, signed them all over to me. Isabella never would have guessed that her precious status as the heir apparent was just to set up a crucible my father created to forge me into a leader. My marriage was a matter of corporate succession. The woman I chose would be my partner in every sense. Before I could even bring it up, my father found me. What's going on with you and Isabella? He took off his gold-rimmed glasses, polishing the lenses. It was a casual gesture, but it betrayed his frayed nerves. Isabella is getting married to that illegitimate Vance kid. She told me it was a family arrangement. I laid out the whole story for him. He slammed his hand on the desk. A pen jumped, leaving an ink blot that spread across the annual financial report. Ridiculous. Even if we were to consider a strategic marriage, why would we ever stoop to dealing with a second-rate family like the Vances? Comparing the Vance family's assets to Hayes Corporation was like comparing a candle to the sun. Their entire company's market value was less than our international division's quarterly revenue. Don't tell me Isabella actually fell for that lowlife. My father scoffed. What a piece of work. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. He fumed, pacing around the office. The cufflinks on his bespoke suit scraped against the documents on his desk. I crossed my arms and shot him a look. Well, she's the daughter you raised. My father's expression immediately shifted to a placating smile like a golden retriever begging for a treat. She's not my blood. I only adopted her from the orphanage because I felt sorry for her. Who knew I was raising a snake? He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. Between you and her, Dad is always on your side. Always. Even though he raised Isabella, my father knew where his loyalties lay. It all went back to an accident 20 years ago. Back then, he was a broke nobody who, after one too many drinks, had a one-night stand with my mother. When my mother found out she was pregnant, doctors warned her it was a high-risk pregnancy and that if she miscarried, she might never be able to have children. She kept it a secret from everyone and gave birth to me, raising me on her own for 2 years. By the time my father found out his career was taking off, faced with a sudden illegitimate son, his first cold reaction was to accuse my mother of trying to blackmail him. That changed the day his assistant handed him a bank statement. The seed money that launched his entire business. It had come from my mother, who had sold her family home and inheritance to fund him. From that day on, my father began a decade-long, painfully arduous campaign to win her back. He bought her favorite art galleries around the world and sent her bouquets of 9,999 roses. But he could never earn so much as a smile. I remember when I was 8, I'd often hear noises from the wall outside my window late at night. In the moonlight, I'd see a man in a perfectly tailored suit perched on top of the garden wall, his tie caught on a rose bush. He'd whisper lessons to me from his perch. Son, you got to be tough to make it in this world. If anyone messes with you, just play dead. Don't get up until you've squeezed at least 100 grand out of them. Eventually, my mother's heart softened and she forgave him, but she insisted on living by the ocean in the Hamptons. Whenever my father had a spare moment, he would make the long trip out to see her, always bringing a bouquet of peonies, her favorite. Here at Hayes Corp, my father deliberately kept our relationship a secret. You have to climb up from the bottom to truly understand how to wield power. He'd said, who would have thought that this carefully cultivated successor, Isabella, would not only rely on me as a ghost strategist at work, but also play me for a fool in her personal life. She had no idea that the only reason my father valued her opinion was because I, his chief of staff, was in his office every evening breaking down her performance for the day. In her eyes, I was just some ambitious guy from a no-name background, a social climber who got ahead by sucking up to the boss. That arrogance was probably why she felt so confident juggling two men at once. She enjoyed having me clean up her professional messes while she was privately planning a wedding with her childhood friend. She took my affection for granted, then used it for the family as a pathetic excuse when she got caught. She thought that no matter what she did, I would always be there to fix things, to tolerate her selfishness. To hell with that. By the way, my father suddenly remembered something. Tapping his fingers on the desk. Since Isabella's head is clearly somewhere else, I want you to meet someone. He took off his glasses again, instantly shifting into matchmaker mode, his gaze full of paternal concern. It's your Uncle David's daughter, Chloe Shun. She's a couple of years younger than you. You two used to play together as kids. She still asks about you. I spun the pen in my hand, a faint image of a girl with a ponytail surfacing in my memory. We went to Six Flags once as kids and became ride buddies for the day. We had a blast. But for the last few years, my world had revolved around Isabella. I'd completely forgotten about her. She's a great girl, down to earth, smart, and beautiful. My father said, testing the waters. David mentioned the other day that Chloe's still single. He paused, then added, just think of it as making a new friend. Go see her. I leaned back in my chair. The setting sun cast a warm orange glow on the files scattered across my desk. My phone screen lit up. A new iMessage from Isabella was waiting, a reminder to finish editing her PowerPoint for tomorrow's meeting. Meanwhile, Caleb had just posted a new picture to his Instagram story. He and Isabella were at a coffee shop nearby, her head bent over his proposal, helping him fix it. The dependency I once found endearing now just felt pathetic. Fine, I said, turning my phone screen down. I'll meet her. It can't hurt to network. My father nodded, pleased. As he stood up to leave, he clapped me on the shoulder. It's time to move on, son. Look forward. She's just one woman. She doesn't deserve you. After the office door clicked shut, I stared at the corporate chart on the wall. Isabella's name was still hanging in a prominent position. My finger traced the lines on the paper. I knew some things, like this chart, were about to be radically redesigned. Right around the time Chloe and I were on our date, Caleb posted a picture on Instagram. Two hands intertwined showing off a marriage certificate. He had officially announced his marriage to the Hayes Corporation heir Isabella Hayes. The caption, "The rest of our lives starts now," felt like a needle prick to my eye. Isabella, as if anticipating I'd see it, quickly sent me a text reiterating that her marriage to Caleb was purely a business arrangement and that I was the one she truly loved. I suppressed the urge to vomit, flipped my phone over on the table, and looked up at the woman across from me, the one who was 2 years my junior. We met as kids, remember? I started trying to break the ice. No, Chloe said, pouting. Her tone was deliberately grumpy, but if she really didn't remember, she wouldn't be acting like this. It felt more like she was waiting for me to coax the memory out of her. I remember my dad took me to an amusement park once, and you were there. You were too scared to go on most of the rides, so I went with you. I prodded. Chloe snorted. So, you do remember then? Why didn't you recognize me in high school? I froze, confused. We went to the same high school. I had absolutely no memory of it. That year at the big basketball tournament, I was a cheerleader for the visiting team. I saw you in the stands, clear as day, but you didn't even glance my way. Her words shocked me. I couldn't believe that after all these years, she was the one who remembered me. But looking at her now, she was a world away from the little girl with pigtails in my memory. I honestly wouldn't have been able to place her. You look completely different from when you were a kid. How was I supposed to recognize you? I said, offering an excuse that was also the truth. She let out another huff, turned her head to look away, and went silent. Seeing her all puffed up and annoyed, I found it strangely charming. Since we already had a history, I felt a growing sense of warmth toward her. You know, I suggested we could go to an amusement park now. She hesitated, then stole a quick glance at me and gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. At the park, we rode the carousel and bumper cars just like we did as kids. But this time, we also braved the roller coasters and drop towers we were too scared to try back then. Between the screams and laughter, the tension that had been gripping me for days, the dark cloud of Isabella's betrayal finally started to lift. When we said goodbye, we exchanged numbers and added each other on WhatsApp. Watching Chloe walk away, I had a sudden feeling that this unexpected blind date might just be the fresh start I needed. When I got home, Isabella had already cooked dinner and she brought Caleb with her. Ethan, man, me and Izzy getting married is just an act. Don't take it seriously, Caleb said, but his eyes were full of smug provocation. On the dining table, right in the middle, sat their marriage certificate, red and glaring. Ethan doesn't mind. Don't worry about it. From now on, you can just live here. Isabella answered for me. From the sound of it, she was planning on having Caleb move into our apartment. What did you say? He's moving in. I crossed my arms, looking at Isabella with a morbid curiosity. Don't be so petty. Caleb and I are legally married, so of course he has to live here. It's all part of the act for appearances, Isabella explained, her logic ironclad in her own mind. He moves in. So where does that leave me? I asked, my voice dangerously low. We can all live together. There are plenty of rooms. It's not like we don't have a space. If Caleb doesn't live here, people will know our marriage is fake. Her reasoning was flawless. If you were insane. So I continued, what's the sleeping arrangement? Do Caleb and I take turns in your room? That did it. Isabella exploded. Ethan, what is wrong with you? How many times do I have to say it? Caleb and I are not a real couple. It's a strategic marriage. She slammed her hand on the table. I laughed. There's no such thing as a fake marriage in the eyes of the law. As things stood, if I stayed with Isabella, I'd be the other man. The home wrecker. Caleb won't get in the way of our life. Can't you just be a little more mature about this? She was trying to manipulate me again. A headache was starting to pound behind my eyes. Could she really not see the game Caleb was playing? And more importantly, they were legally married. Her actual husband that made me, her long-term boyfriend, the third wheel. She wasn't thinking about me at all. If this were some trashy romance novel, this is the part where I pack my bags in the middle of the night, move overseas, and let Isabella realize what she'd lost so she could regret it for the rest of her life. But I'm a man, and this isn't a novel. I am the biological son of Harrison Hayes, the founder of Hayes Corporation. I am the rightful heir. I am a hidden prince, not a pushover. She wants to play games with two guys. Not a chance. Get out. The words came out low and guttural, aimed directly at Caleb. My expression was thunderous. Ethan. Isabella saw my face change and started to scold me, but I cut her off. I swung my feet up and propped them on the dining table, then casually flicked their marriage certificate into a nearby trash can. I looked back at Caleb and repeated the command louder this time. Get out. Didn't you hear me? It was obvious I was done playing games. Izzy, I think he's really mad. Maybe I should go. Caleb put on his best impression of a kicked puppy. The kind of manipulative act you'd see in a cheap drama, but he miscalculated. Isabella may be the adopted daughter, but I'm the real heir. His crocodile tears meant nothing to me. Ethan, I've given you enough chances. Isabella shot up, ready to unload on me, but I just met her gaze. The unprecedented coldness in my eyes seemed to shock her back to her senses. Okay, Caleb. She turned to him, her tone subdued. It looks like Ethan is really bothered by this. Why don't you get a hotel for the night? I'll talk to him and I'll come get you tomorrow. Fine. If Ethan doesn't want me here, I'll leave. Seeing that Isabella wasn't backing him up, Caleb dropped the act and reluctantly stood up. He shot me a glare as he walked away. He had almost made it and only to be kicked right back out. He had to be furious. Caleb went upstairs to pack his things. Ethan, please don't be angry. It really is just an arrangement, Isabella pleaded, starting her campaign to win me back over. Caleb needs the Hayes family name to get a foothold in his own family business. I tuned her out completely. Even though she had chosen me over Caleb just now, the fact remained she was married to him. There were a million ways to help someone. Marrying them wasn't one of them. It was an act of profound stupidity. As Isabella watched me, her face full of hope that I would forgive her, I turned my head and spat out 3 words. "You get out." Isabella froze. She never imagined I would kick her out, too. She probably still thought this was her father's property, which by extension made it hers. She had no idea Harrison Hayes had already transferred all his assets to my mother's name. And my mother, who had no interest in material wealth, signed it all over to me. So, the deed to this apartment is in my name. It's my house, and I had no problem kicking Mrs. Caleb Vance out of it. Just then, Caleb came downstairs, suitcase in hand, his face a mask of resentment. Isabella glanced at him, then looked back at me. "Fine, I'll stay somewhere else tonight. You cool off, we'll talk tomorrow." She left with Caleb. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a picture from Caleb. In the photo, Isabella was in a hotel bathrobe, her back to the camera. She was bent over slightly, her pose suggestive like they were about to get intimate. They had gone to a hotel together. Beneath the photo was a message. "Izzy brought me to a hotel. Don't worry, Ethan. I'll take good care of her." It was supposed to be proof of their affair, but I just rolled my eyes. What a pathetic move. If Isabella was really sleeping with him, he'd be too busy to be sending me blurry, ambiguous photos. He was just trying to provoke me. A childish, transparent tactic. But it didn't matter anymore. Isabella was his wife. If they slept together, it was their legal right. A transfer 1,500 miles away the next day. Isabella didn't come back to the apartment. Instead, a memo from Harrison Hayes landed on her desk. A transfer order. She was being reassigned to a subsidiary. Before leaving, Isabella found me. Her face a mask of confused frustration. "I don't know what's gotten into my dad. He's insisting I go to this branch office for management experience." Before I could say anything, she continued. "It's probably for the best. We can have some space. By the time I get back, you'll have cooled off and we can talk things out properly." With that, she rushed off. Isabella would never guess that the transfer order was arranged by me, the chief of staff, acting on behalf of the CEO. She was being shipped off to a branch 1,500 miles away in Cleveland, and I made sure Caleb was packaged up and sent right along with her. Their talents were better suited for the minor leagues. Soon enough, their photos started popping up on my Instagram feed, frolicking on a beach by Lake Erie, clinking glasses in a restaurant. Every picture was staged to look like they were a couple madly in love. Isabella immediately texted me, insisting it was all for show. Caleb would also send me pictures of their outings, ostensibly to keep me in the loop, but every word was dripping with passive-aggressive taunts. I muted both of them. Here I was the chief of staff sitting in the CEO's chair in the executive office, diligently running the day-to-day operations of the company. Harrison, meanwhile, was practicing his putting on the indoor green, taking a moment to lecture me. "You're my son. It's only natural you help your old man carry the load." In the next breath, he was excitedly telling me about the vacation he was planning to the Maldives with my mom next month. Suddenly, Harrison sighed. "That girl, Isabella, so foolish. I was grooming her to be your right hand to help you run this company." I looked up, keeping my voice even. "Why did you adopt her in the first place?" A shadow passed over Harrison's face. "Back then, your mother wouldn't let me see you. I was going out of my mind missing you, so I went to an orphanage and brought her home. Isabella was only 2, just as mischievous as you were at that age." "Why a girl specifically?" I pressed. Harrison's eyes twinkled with a cunning smile. "So she could marry you when she grew up? Your old man thinks long-term, doesn't he? I had your wife picked out for you ahead of time." So that was it. Isabella was raised to be my partner, and she really thought she was the princess of the castle. I couldn't help but tease him. "A shame the bride you spent all those years raising got snatched up by someone else." Seeing that I could still joke about it, Harrison relaxed. "She didn't know what she had. It's her loss. Speaking of which, how are things going with you and Chloe?" After our day at the amusement park, work had been so hectic that I hadn't contacted Chloe. Just as I was thinking about her, my assistant buzzed the intercom. "Sir, there's a Miss Chloe Shun here to see you." Harrison gave me a knowing smirk, grabbed his jacket, and headed out of the office. A moment later, Chloe stormed in looking furious. The second she saw me, she launched into her complaint. "I waited 3 days for you. Not a single text. Whoever heard the girl having to make the first move?" I raised an eyebrow. "When did I agree to date you?" She blinked, seeming to realize that technically I had never said the words, but she pressed on undeterred. "I went on a blind date with you. You took me to an amusement park. If you weren't interested, you should have just left then and there." Her logic was so outrageously confident that I couldn't argue with it. And the strange thing was I didn't find her audacity annoying in the slightest. I did a little digging. She was a University of Miami grad, had never been in a serious relationship, and after graduating had holed herself up at home writing novels. Her billionaire romance books were actually bestsellers. Looking at this earnest, stubborn girl in front of me, a thought suddenly struck me. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with sharp features and a lean, athletic build. Wasn't I the living embodiment of the heroes in her novels? An idea sparked. Acting the part, I crooked a finger at her and said in a low voice, "Come here." Chloe flinched, but her eyes lit up with an unmistakable excitement. "What for?" I closed the distance between us, backing her against the wall. My voice dropped to a husky murmur. "If we're dating, a kiss isn't out of line, is it?" She blushed, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt as she slowly closed her eyes. I kissed her. She kissed me back. And just like that, we were together. After that, Chloe was always at the office, sitting at my assistant's desk, typing away on her laptop, writing her next novel. Every so often, she'd steal a glance at me. The adoration in her eyes impossible to hide. It wasn't until later that I found out the whole story. Back when we were kids, when I rode the bumper cars with her and carried her through the haunted house, I had told her, "Don't be scared. I'll protect you." That one sentence had stayed with her, a cherished memory. When she saw me again in high school, she recognized me instantly, but I had no clue who she was. She held a grudge about that for years. When she found out I was dating Isabella, she cried for days. And even when Harrison called her for the blind date, she spent the whole time cursing my name before showing up the next day dressed to kill. It turned out that one small act of kindness in childhood had made her carry a torch for me for all these years. While I learned all this, I pulled her into my arms and held her tight. After all the detours and wrong turns, we had found our way to each other. It felt right. A month flew by. Demoted to the lowest rung of the corporate ladder, Isabella was crushed by the sheer volume of manual labor. As she heaved another box onto a high shelf, she wiped the sweat from her brow with the back of her sleeve, muttering resentfully, "Dad, you're really cruel, sending me to a place this far away to learn the ropes from the very bottom." She suspected the transfer had something to do with her suddenly marrying Caleb without telling her father first. "It's not like it was a real marriage," she grumbled. "Why is everyone overreacting?" "I need to talk to him," she decided. Isabella pulled out her phone to call Harrison, but the call wouldn't go through. A call failed. Message popped up. "What's going on?" She tried again and again with the same result. "This is the same thing that happens when I call Ethan." She remembered trying to call me only to get the same automated rejection. Just then, Caleb found her again. "Izzy," my brother said, "since we don't have any wedding photos, he still thinks our marriage is fake. None of them believe us." Their marriage had no photos, no ceremony, nothing. Isabella thought about it. He had a point. What married couple didn't have wedding photos? "Fine, let's go take them now." They took a half day off and went to a local photography studio. After a few hours of posing, they had a whole collection of wedding pictures. "Izzy, I'm posting them on Instagram," Caleb announced. "Yeah, go ahead." As she watched Caleb upload the pictures, her thoughts drifted back to the boyfriend she hadn't spoken to in a month, but she couldn't get through to my number. Her texts went unanswered. "Ethan's going to be so mad when he sees our wedding photos," Caleb said, feeding her delusion that I was just sulking. "It's fine," Isabella said, though a sliver of doubt pricked at her confidence for the first time. "Ethan's just upset with me. He'll get over it. He'll forgive me." She was Isabella Hayes after all. Harrison Hayes' only daughter, the future CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. With that kind of inheritance as a dowry, she was sure I would eventually come crawling back. She had leverage. However, shortly after Caleb posted the photos, a comment from one of his relatives appeared that struck Isabella like a bolt of lightning. "Wow, Caleb, you really married the Hayes heir. Congrats. By the way, speaking of good news, her brother is getting engaged to Chloe Shun tomorrow. What a weekend for the Hayes family." Seeing the comment, Caleb frowned and turned to Isabella. "Izzy, you have a brother?" "No, I'm an only child." "That's hilarious. My cousin just said your brother is getting engaged to the younger Shun tomorrow." "She had no idea you don't even have a brother. Where do people come up with this stuff?" Isabella glanced at the comment and scoffed. "Tell her I don't have a brother." She must have been scammed. Caleb immediately texted his cousin to correct her. A moment later, his cousin sent back a photo of the engagement invitation. Harrison Hayes' name was printed clearly at the top. The invitation was for his son's engagement to Miss Chloe Shun to be held on the 8th of the month. Tomorrow. Caleb showed the photo to Isabella. She stared at it, her brow furrowed, trying to process what she was seeing. Suddenly, Caleb's eyes widened in realization. Oh, I get it. Izzy, your dad has an illegitimate son on the side. Shock. Isabella's eyes went wide. She suddenly remembered all the times her father would disappear from home and the office for a few days each month. He always said he was going to the coast to relax. She also remembered seeing children's toys in his car sometimes. Toys that were never given to her. That had to be it. She was certain her father had a secret son. So that's why he shipped me 1,500 miles away, she seethed, jumping to her feet. He wanted me out of the way for his precious son's engagement party so I couldn't cause a scene. So what do we do now? Caleb asked, a calculating look in his eyes. Marrying Isabella meant getting his hands on a Hayes fortune. He had worked so hard to trick her into this marriage, all to drive Ethan away so he could take his place. This sudden appearance of a secret son threatened everything. A brother would mean Isabella would have to share the inheritance. And what was Isabella's was his. He had to stand by her side. We're going back, Isabella declared. I want to see what this brother of mine looks like. She stood up angrily and in a fit of rage threw her phone to the ground where it shattered into a dozen pieces. Caleb flinched. That was his phone. When Isabella arrived at the engagement party with Caleb, the first thing she saw was Harrison standing next to a poised middle-aged woman. Both of them smiling as they greeted guests. The sight only confirmed her suspicions about a secret family. She was about to march over and confront them when a familiar figure appeared. Me? I was walking toward Harrison, my arm linked with my fiancée, Chloe Shun. We looked good together. It was undeniable. Ethan's over there. Caleb gasped. Am I seeing things? Who is that woman with him? Inwardly, he was celebrating. This was perfect. All thoughts of an illegitimate brother vanished from Isabella's mind. Her entire focus narrowed in on me and Chloe. Ethan, she shrieked, charging through the crowd. Terrified guests scattered out of her way. I have been expecting her. I remained perfectly calm. Who is she? You tell me right now. Isabella yelled, her voice filled with fury as she reached us. Just as she did, the surprise I'd arranged made its entrance. Oh my, isn't that our Isabella? I told you our daughter-in-law would be here. Caleb's parents, come over here and say hello to your father-in-law. You kids getting married and keeping a secret from us. It was Caleb's parents. Caleb was always bragging about his life with Isabella, wasn't he? So, I'd send his family an invitation to witness my engagement to Chloe and as a bonus to help me publicly confirm Isabella's marital status. Tonight, I was going to get her out of my life for good. Mrs. Vance, what are you doing here? Seeing Caleb's parents, Isabella was completely blindsided. The color drained from her face. Isabella, dear, you can't keep calling me Mrs. Vance. You should be calling me Mom now, Caleb's mother said, beaming as she grabbed Isabella's hand. His father added, I just spoke with your father. He has no objections to you two being together. You don't have to hide anymore. You've taken the wedding photos. You have the certificate. It's time you started calling us Mom and Dad. We'll be sure to throw you two a proper wedding celebration soon. Isabella's expression turned to one of pure shock. She had intended for this to be a fake marriage. She never ever imagined she would be forced to call Caleb's parents Mom and Dad in front of a crowd like this. The situation was spiraling far beyond her control. Her eyes darted around frantically, finally landing on Chloe and me. Seeing Chloe's arm linked through mine, she lost all composure, lunging forward to tear her hand away. Let go of him. I stepped in front of Chloe, intercepting Isabella and pushing her hand away. Mrs. Vance, please conduct yourself with a little dignity. Note the name I used. Mrs. Vance. It was a clear declaration of how I saw her from now on. What did you call me? Isabella was stunned by my coldness. The name was like a slap in the face. Mrs. Vance, I repeated, my tone polite but distant. Please refrain from putting your hands on my fiancée. You call me Mrs. Vance and she's your fiancée. Isabella's eye began to twitch as panic set in. Just then, the Vances chimed in again. Now we're all family here. No need for such formalities. Isabella, today is your brother's engagement party. Let's not cause a scene. My brother? Isabella was reeling. Now, even Caleb's parents were treating me like her brother. What are you talking about? He's not my brother. She wanted to say I was her boyfriend, but how could she? In this situation, in front of all these people, I chose that moment to speak, my voice ringing out clearly for everyone to hear. My name is Ethan Miller. I'm an only child. I don't have a sister. A wave of murmurs rippled through the guests. The Vance family looked utterly bewildered. After all, Harrison Hayes had just personally introduced me as his son. What's going on? I thought he was Harrison Hayes' son, right? And Isabella is a Hayes, too. Wouldn't that make them brother and sister? The gossip reached Isabella's ears, leaving her more confused than ever. Caleb's mother looked at me uncertainly. Ethan, dear, Isabella is a Hayes. She's your sister. Don't be ridiculous. Isabella snapped at her. I'm the only Hayes. Ethan isn't one yet. Well, he will be. No, that's not right. She was tying herself in knots. I decided it was time to drop the bomb. I cleared my throat. Let me state this one more time for everyone. I am Ethan Miller, the son of Harrison Hayes and Catherine Miller. I took my mother's last name. My parents have only one child, me. The ballroom fell silent. The guests and Vance family stood frozen as if time had stopped. Isabella's eyes were wide with disbelief, her face a blank mask. As I made my declaration, Harrison stood right beside me, his expression calm, offering no correction. Everyone in the room instantly knew they were about to witness a major high society scandal unfold. Oh, so you're his illegitimate son, Caleb shouted, stepping forward like a clown. But even if you're the secret son, Isabella is still his daughter. How can you say he only has one child? He was so confused. He was starting to wonder if we were talking about two different Harrison Hayes. Isabella stammered, latching onto the idea. She was convinced I was the illegitimate son. Her former boyfriend was now her half-brother. The thought made her feel sick, but it also meant they could never be together. Isabella's face was pale as she muttered, even if you're Dad's son, you can't have him all to yourself. I let out a cold, dismissive laugh and turned to my father. Dad, why don't you clear this up? My pleasure. With my mother standing beside him for support, Harrison first gave us both an apologetic smile, then turned his icy gaze on Isabella. Isabella, it's time you knew the truth. You were adopted. The words exploded in the silent room. Isabella looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. She was completely stunned. She, the great Isabella Hayes, was adopted. The only silver lining was a twisted one. If we weren't related by blood, maybe we could still be together. The guests, seasoned veterans of high society drama, quickly put the pieces together. So that's why Ethan said Harrison only had one son. The daughter wasn't his by birth. At that moment, I produced a document I prepared earlier, the final blow in my revenge. She deserved it for the way she and her so-called sweetheart had humiliated me. I was never a good person to begin with. I'm not the forgiving type. An eye for an eye. That's my style. Harrison took the document and sighed. Walking over to the shell-shocked Isabella. Isabella, I raised you. I educated you. And I even entrusted my own son and my entire company to you. And what did you do while you were dating Ethan? You turned around and married some nobody. Then brought him to our home to shame Ethan. I, Harrison Hayes, have no daughter like you. Since you're a married woman now, it's time for you to leave the Hayes family. I've had your name legally removed from the family trust. Take this and go. From this day on, we go our separate ways. I am no longer your father, and you are no longer my daughter. Harrison pressed the legal document into Isabella's hand, then turned his back on her and walked back to my mother's side. With trembling hands, Isabella looked at the document, seeing the formal notice of her disinheritance. Her legs gave out and she collapsed to the floor. Her face was a blank canvas of confusion, her eyes empty. She kept muttering, I'm not his daughter. Ha ha, I'm adopted. The shock had clearly broken her. But who was to blame? I felt no pity when she and Caleb got their marriage license and brought it to my home to rub in my face. Did she ever once consider my feelings? If I hadn't been Harrison Hayes' son, they would have walked all over me. Get them out of here, my mother said, her voice tight with a rare anger. Security guards who had been on standby immediately moved in and began to drag the crying, struggling Isabella out of the ballroom. And you, my mother said, turning to the cowering Vances and pointing to the door. All of you get out. The Vance family scrambled for the exit, their hushed, angry accusations against Caleb trailing behind them. I watched Caleb's pathetic retreat, a cold thought forming in my mind. We're not done yet. Not by a long shot. With the drama over, the engagement party resumed. Harrison, looking slightly embarrassed, said to my future father-in-law, David, sorry you had to see that mess. My future father-in-law was unsympathetic. You can't turn a stray into a show dog, he said with a dismissive wave. It's not your fault. She did this to herself. He knew, of course, that Harrison had paved a golden road for Isabella. She was the one who chose to throw it all away. I stood with Chloe, accepting congratulations from the remaining guests. The next day, Isabella was kneeling outside my front door, holding a cardboard sign that read, "I was wrong." Chloe glanced out the window, a flicker of pity in her eyes. She'd been out there all day. I laughed humorlessly, wanting to let her in. The three of us can live together. You two can take turns. Chloe's eyes went wide. She never mentioned Isabella again. Isabella knelt for a full day and night before she finally collapsed and was taken to the hospital. To sever our ties completely, I went to her hospital room with 2 file folders. When Isabella saw me, she struggled to sit up. "Ethan, you finally came to see me." She tumbled out of bed and crawled toward me, grabbing my leg. "I never meant to betray you. I swear," she cried. "Caleb was always being bullied by his brothers. I only married him to give him some protection. He always followed me around like a little puppy when we were kids, calling me Izzy. I only ever saw him as a little brother." "Is that so?" I sneered. "You knew he was being bullied, but did you know what he was doing to others?" I opened one of the folders and tossed a stack of papers and a phone on her bed. "See for yourself." Isabella looked through the documents and watched the videos on the phone. The color drained from her face. "No, this can't be real. Caleb wouldn't." The videos showed Caleb framing classmates, poisoning a rival's project, and blackmailing his own family members. His older half-brother had told me everything. He'd wanted to deal with Caleb for years, but was afraid of the consequences since Caleb had the powerful Isabella Hayes in his corner. Now Caleb's protector was gone. I was helping a monster. She whispered in horror. And I married him. She finally understood the depth of her own foolishness. I was wrong. "Ethan, please forgive me. I can't lose you." She sobbed, begging hysterically. I looked down at her without an ounce of sympathy. "Stop dreaming, Isabella. We are never getting back together. And let me be clear, I don't sleep with another man's wife." The reminder of her marital status hit her. "Give me a month," she pleaded. "As soon as the waiting period is over, I'll divorce him." But my next words extinguished her last spark of hope. And I don't marry divorced women. Isabella froze, her face a mask of utter despair. The fact was she was married. What we had was like spilled water. It could never be put back in a glass. Every word was designed to hurt whatever was between us. "It's been over for a long time." I tossed the second file folder on her bed. "That's the deed to an apartment in Cleveland. Get better and then get out of New York. Don't come back." I had arranged this from the moment I had her transferred. Considered a parting gift from Harrison. After all, he had raised her for over 20 years. You get attached to a pet in that amount of time. And technically, she was my adopted sister. "Don't make me go," she wept. "I don't have a family anymore. Now you're abandoning me, too." I walked out of the hospital room, her cries echoing behind me, and I didn't look back. The truth is, my refusal to forgive Isabella wasn't because she was divorced. I only said that to make her give up. The real reason was her stupidity. I am the heir to the Hayes Corporation. When I take over, the livelihoods of thousands of families will depend on my decisions. Isabella is a fool. She can't see the big picture. Keeping her by my side would be a liability. A ticking time bomb waiting to create a disaster that could ruin thousands of lives. The woman by my side doesn't have to be a genius, but she cannot be a fool. The moment she agreed to marry Caleb Vance, she was written out of my life. Our story ends here. Next, I had my driver take me to the county courthouse. I sat in the car and waited. Before long, Caleb Vance, dressed in a prison jumpsuit, was led out by 2 sheriff's deputies heading for a transport van. I let out a short, sharp whistle. He looked up and saw me. Our eyes met. I gave him a slow, wide grin. He knew exactly what it meant. I was here to gloat, to rub his failure in his face. My expression was pure, unadulterated mockery. I never said I was a good person. When someone wrongs me, I get even. Otherwise, I can't sleep at night. Epilogue. My name is Isabella Hayes. I woke up and I was back, reborn. It was the morning of the day.